Welcome to Think Education. In this video, you will learn about the basics of an important chapter in biology, microorganisms. What do they mean? So now we split up the word micro and organism. Micro means very tiny and organism means a living thing. Therefore, our definition will be tiny organisms which are microscopic. What is microscopic? That is, it's difficult to see with the naked eye. Some examples are bacteria, protozoa, archaea and algae. The study of microorganisms is called microbiology. The people or scientists who study microbiology are called microbiologists. Now, who discovered these tiny guys? Anton van Leeuwenhoek discovered the microbes in 1675 using a microscope that he made on his own. Now, are you ready for some facts? 90% of our human cells are bacterial cells. There are more microbes on your hands than the people on this planet. Interesting, right? So, you always thought microbes as disease causing. But most microbes do not cause diseases. They are good guys. Less than 5% of the microbes are bad. One study, in fact, found microorganisms of 205 different types are just living on your skin. Just imagine these tiny creatures crawling all over your skin. We rely on these small tiny little organisms more than we actually can think of. Microbes generate at least half of the oxygen that we breathe, harvest energy from our food, provide us with nutrients denied otherwise, and prevent growth of other harmful microbes. They can also go bad and wild, changing their community in ways that are linked to obesity and many intestinal diseases. These tiny bad guys can also spoil food. Okay, hold your breath for one more interesting fact. 1,000 different types of bacteria live in your intestine, and 1 teaspoon of soil contains 1 billion bacteria, 120,000 fungi, and 25,000 algae. Microbes are important. They are useful and they can be harmful. So now we are going to look about the origin of life through our tiny ancestors. So why waste time? Let's get started. Microbes have been longer than anything else on earth. Longer than all of us and longer than even dinosaurs. Microbes were the first ones to set foot on this planet Earth. That's around 3.5 billion years ago. We humans came in just 100,000 years ago. Now let's take a glance at an unbelievable fact. Your grandparents, my grandparents, and the tree's grandparents all point to one ancestor, a microorganism called archaea. How? It's impossible, right? Okay, I'll tell you a small story of our Earth to help you understand this fact. Around 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was formed from the Big Bang. But the temperature and climate was just too harsh for life to survive. So, the question is, how did it happen? Around 3.5 billion years ago, the Earth cooled a bit enough for water to form from vapor, and then some organic molecules came together and life happened. Yes, our first life archaea happened. Let's look at our Earth 4.5 billion years ago along with a picture of organic molecules. From archaea came bacteria, and from them came the other single-celled organisms called prokaryotes. These prokaryotes were called so because prokaryote means before nucleus, and these single-celled organisms were so primitive that they lacked a nucleus. Here are some examples of prokaryotes. Then, all of a sudden, the oxygen levels went up from 0 to 10%. What was the source of this oxygen? It was a brand new prokaryote called cyanobacteria. These bacteria learned to make their food through a process similar to photosynthesis. And from 3.5 billion years to 2.1 billion years, these prokaryotes ruled the earth alone. This is the picture of cyanobacteria. Suddenly, a special cell called eukaryote is formed. Eukaryotes are a big deal because they include you and me and also all the plants and animals. How did they form? There are so many theories about it, but this one is the most convincing. When one prokaryote ate another one and then maybe just forgot to digest it, it stayed there and then they together became a single cell, reproduced and gave rise to special parts inside which we have the cell organelles today. This allowed for so much complexity that we started seeing multicellular organisms. Life started evolving. We had algae and lot of organisms that were in water. Suddenly, through this huge explosion, the sea was filled with a large, diverse set of creatures. It was like someone waved a magic wand over the sea, and it was diverse like never before. This explosion was called the Cambrian explosion, and that's where we started to get most of the animals and plants. The water then started getting too crowded, and then fishes became tetrapods. What are tetrapods? That is, fishes shed their gills for lungs, their fins for limbs, and conquered the land. It was taken over by life. Frogs, lizards, dinosaurs, and from dinosaurs came birds and mammals whom we are also a part. Take a look at the Cambrian explosion, a tetrapod and a picture showing evolution. The wonderful story of life from our oldest, weirdest relatives, a journey which started 3.5 billion years ago and will go on and on and on to so many years. As we promised, we have revealed the answers for our questions about subject and predicate. Take a look.